Have you ever noticed how certain people appear in your life at pivotal moments? It feels as though they are sent for a particular purpose, whether to deliver a message or help us overcome a challenge. Have you ever experienced the sensation of déjà vu when meeting someone, as if you've known them from some undefined past? In this video, we'll explore the idea that people don't cross our paths by mere chance, but rather for a deeper reason. So settle in and stay until the end, because what you are about to hear may leave a lasting impact. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, activate notifications, and share the video. By doing so, you'll help us continue producing meaningful content for your spiritual growth. One day, the aged monk, Hotaka, was meditating beneath a cherry tree, which was in full bloom. A young man named Hiroshi approached him respectfully and asked, "Master, why do I sometimes feel a deep connection with certain people, as if we've met before? Yet with others, there's an unease, as if they bring harm to me. This confuses me. Do we meet others by chance?" Hotaka looked at him with understanding and replied, "No one enters our lives by accident. This truth is more profound than we often realize. Throughout our journey, we meet a variety of individuals, each with a unique purpose in our story. Some cross our path briefly, while others walk with us for a much longer time, accompanying us through various chapters of our lives." Rising slowly, Hotaka pointed to the vast blue sky and continued, "Look at the birds soaring above. Their flight is not random. They are guided by the currents of the wind, just as we are subtly directed by the invisible forces of life." Hiroshi watched the birds and pondered the wisdom of the monk. Hotaka then said, "Think of your life as a garden. Every person you meet is like a seed planted by destiny. Some grow into vibrant flowers that last for a season, while others, like mighty trees, endure through the years. But no matter their duration, they all bring the gift of new growth." Hiroshi nodded, reflecting on the various flowers and trees he had encountered along his life's path. "The people who cause us pain." Hotaka continued, his voice softening with compassion, "are often our greatest teachers. They are like sharp stones on our path. Though they bring discomfort, they challenge us to grow and to discover our inner strength." Hotaka closed his eyes, recalling the difficulties that had shaped his own soul over the years. He opened his eyes and pointed to a towering tree nearby. "And then there are those who appear at precisely the moment we need them. Just as the roots of this tree support it through storms, these people provide us with stability in our most difficult times." Hiroshi thought of someone who had been his rock during a particularly fragile period in his life, someone who had been his anchor amidst the chaos. And though this person eventually left Hiroshi, still wished they were by his side. Hotaka concluded with wisdom, "Some people remain with us forever. They are like fixed stars in our sky, bright, constant, and unwavering. True friends, family members, or soulmates, these individuals share the weight of our struggles and the joy of our triumphs." The young monk smiled, feeling deep gratitude for the special people he had encountered and the ones by his side. Hotaka gazed at the sky, his eyes reflecting a subtle light. "Recognize and appreciate every person who crosses your path, young Hiroshi. Each one is an integral part of your story, just as you are a part of theirs. Life is a complex web of destinies, and every meeting contributes to the fabric of your existence." The monk paused before adding, "There are three fundamental types of individuals in our lives. First, those who push us to evolve, to overcome our limits. and to rise to new levels of awareness. Then, there are those who bring renewal to our inner world. When we meet these individuals, we immediately sense that the universe is weaving a mysterious tapestry. The plans behind these encounters remain hidden, but we can be sure that something within us is undergoing a profound transformation. He continued, "Finally, there are those who encourage us to persist. This group may only stay for a fleeting moment, but their role is crucial. They remind us of the true nature of our path, reinforcing our determination to keep moving forward." Hiroshi listened intently, deeply moved by Hotaka's words. In the years that followed, he continued to walk the path illuminated by his teacher. Every encounter, whether a brief meeting or a lifelong companionship, became a valuable piece in the mosaic of his existence. Through the challenges and joys, Hiroshi learned that every person and every experience offered a hidden gift, a lesson that contributed to his growth and spiritual fulfillment. As time passed, Hiroshi himself became a senior monk, his eyes wise and heart full of gratitude. In his role as a spiritual guide, he shared with young monks the profound truth taught to him by Hotaka. Life is a continuous flow of meaningful encounters, each one adding to the unique beauty of our existence. In conclusion, what is the moral of this story? That every encounter in life, no matter how brief or intense, enriches our journey. Life is a marvelous path of discovery, and each person who crosses it brings a distinct gift. Sometimes these people pass away. Other times they leave without explanation. Occasionally, they act in ways that challenge us to make a choice and move on. What we must understand is that their purpose has been fulfilled. One of our needs or desires has been met, and we are forever changed. In a world where the paths of people intersect and part ways like the branches of a tree, true wisdom lies in keeping your heart open with each encounter and learning from the lessons woven into the tapestry of destiny. As we journey towards our life's goals, difficult challenges and trials inevitably arise, leaving us feeling helpless at times. Yet it is precisely during these moments that the universe sends us people who offer the courage to face these challenges and overcome the obstacles in our way. Their support and encouragement inspire us, providing the strength to move forward in the dance of life. Hotaka once told the young novice, "Every encounter is like a musical note. Listen closely to the melody that unfolds through the people who cross your path. Find beauty in the harmony of human connections." He continued, "Remember, whether it's love, a special friendship, or even a brief acquaintance, every encounter has the power to change us forever." Have you ever found yourself wanting to help someone, even when they did not ask for help, only to discover that your intentions backfired? Or perhaps you've wondered if your good deeds may have caused unintended negative consequences, ones you were unaware of at the time. In the Zen story that follows, we will explore the idea that it is often better not to intervene unless help is explicitly requested. This lesson, rooted in Buddhist wisdom, could change the way you perceive human relationships. At a tranquil Buddhist monastery, surrounded by lush gardens and ancient trees, the wise monk Noro gathered his disciples to discuss a matter that weighed heavily on their hearts. Their curiosity was evident, and their eyes were fixed on Noro, eager to understand why their attempts to help others hadn't always gone as they had hoped. Life, Noro began in a calm voice, is like a vast river, and each of us is a small boat navigating its turbulent waters. Often, we find ourselves jumping into the current, attempting to steer others' boats without waiting for them to ask for help. To illustrate this, Noro shared an ancient story passed down through generations. He spoke of a young monk who, eager to assist a struggling companion, intervened without being asked. Although the monk's intentions were noble, his actions triggered a chain of unexpected events, creating a complex web of challenges, some even dramatic for both him and his companion. You should know, Noro continued, that suffering is a vital lesson in our spiritual development. Each individual, like a precious gem, is shaped by the pressures and difficulties of life they face. But when we intervene without being invited, we rob them of the chance to learn, grow, and evolve. To further explain this lesson, Noro shared the story of two friends, Ash and Masu, who had shared both joys and sorrows since their school days. One day, Ash learned about the financial difficulties Masu was facing and decided to secretly help by paying off some of his debts. The intentions, Noro remarked, were naturally good, but Ash's actions led to unexpected, even disastrous consequences. Although Masu was initially grateful for the unasked help, he felt deprived of the opportunity to resolve the matter on his own. Furthermore, Ash had uncovered personal details about Masu's life that Masu had hoped to keep private. This created an emotional distance between them, and Ash began to sense a strain in their friendship. What was meant to be a kind gesture had instead caused discomfort and a shift in their relationship. In essence, Noro explained unsolicited help had created discord, demonstrating how even good deeds can lead to unforeseen complications. What we often fail to realize, Noro continued, is that each individual is guided by their own karma. Every action, whether good or bad, returns to us like an echo. When we help without being asked, we disturb the delicate balance of another's karma, and paradoxically, we harm our own. Noro shared another story of a young man who, eager to solve the problems of a dear friend without being asked, found himself trapped in a series of endless difficulties and misadventures. If you enter a labyrinth that is not your own, Noro cautioned, if you step into someone else's struggle without their invitation, you may trigger a chain of events that complicates their journey and your own. He further explained, your gesture of kindness, no matter how sincere, could end up doing more harm to both your friend and yourself. Noro then asked, imagine wanting to cure someone without first asking them if they are willing to let go of the very things that made them ill. Suffering, Noro noted, is often a result of past actions. Our intervention might disrupt the natural course of the lessons that person is meant to learn. Even I, Noro reflected, have resisted the temptation to intervene when I felt moved to help someone. Buddha too understood the sanctity of an individual's learning process and how each being's karma must be respected. Suffering, Noro continued, is a harsh yet invaluable teacher. He then used more everyday examples to illustrate his point. To better illustrate the concept, Noro spoke of the many moments when seeing a friend or family member in difficulty, his empathy urged him to offer help. Yet in reflecting on Buddha's teachings, he understood the wisdom of waiting for a person to ask for assistance themselves. Suffering, Noro explained, is almost always the result of past actions, and karma is the supreme law that governs the universe. When we intervene, unsolicited, we enter a karmic vortex that can pull us into another person's problems with unpredictable consequences for both of us. He continued, suffering is like a teacher guiding us along the path of spiritual growth. To interfere with this process is to deprive others of the wisdom that only suffering itself can impart. Noro shared stories from daily life at the monastery, demonstrating how the monks applied these teachings in their practice. Dozens of monks I've trained, he said, became wiser and more self-confident precisely because I resisted the temptation to directly intervene in their problems. By stepping back and allowing them to face their own challenges, I enabled them to learn the lessons that karma had in store for them. Every action we take, Noro explained, is like throwing a stone into a pond. He used this metaphor to clarify the concept. The ripples spread out and eventually return to us. When we help without being asked, we not only influence the karma of others, but also create ripples that impact our own lives. In conclusion, Noro offered a profound reminder, the wisdom of knowing when to reach out and when to wait. Karma, like an unbroken river, carries our actions with it, he said. The way we offer help can alter the very structure of destiny. Before we offer assistance, Noro urged we must reflect on what the other person truly needs. Not everyone seeks advice. Sometimes they just need a listening ear and an understanding heart. Therefore, Noro admonished, let us always respect the sacredness of the individual path of each human being. Help should never be an impulsive act, but a conscious gesture that respects free will and the personal and spiritual growth of others and ourselves. Life, Noro concluded, is an intricate web of lessons and opportunities for growth. When we offer help without being called, we might rob others of the precious opportunity to learn through their own effort and experience. Wisdom lies in recognizing that sometimes the best lesson is one learned through personal struggle. Let our help be a beacon of light. Noro said, offered when requested with awareness and respect, rather than a chain of unexpected events. As Noro paused, he shifted the conversation to another important topic. How do we recognize bad people? How do we know which individuals to remove from our lives? He promised to reveal key signs to watch for in identifying those who may harm us. We all deal with individuals of all kinds, and sometimes we find ourselves feeling drained because some of these people are toxic, polluting us with their negativity. The Zen story you're about to hear will reveal the 9 signs through which you can identify individuals who may undermine your personal growth. Stay with us until the end, as the information shared here will help you protect your emotional balance and inner peace. In a quiet Buddhist monastery nestled in a remote part of Japan, there lived the elderly and wise monk Hogai. One day, a young woman named Kiara, troubled by the anxiety caused by some toxic relationships in her life, approached the master with deep respect. She asked, "Master, it is said that you know the secret to recognizing bad people and protecting your inner peace. Please teach me." Hogai, with his characteristic calm, replied, "Of course, my dear. If you have the patience to listen, I will share with you the signs that will help you understand who is before you. But first, let me offer an important premise. The people we often define as bad are not necessarily monsters. They are bad or toxic in the sense that their behaviors and the energy they project can undermine our serenity and mental well-being." He continued, "However, before distancing yourself from these individuals, it is crucial to try to understand why they are the way they are. Often, it is pain and the trials they have faced that have hardened them, making them difficult, irritable, and sometimes harmful. So Kiara, before you push someone away, ask yourself, why do they behave this way? Are they truly a bad person? Or is there something in their life that has shaped them this way? And is there anything I can do to help them stop polluting my emotions? Hogai paused, giving Kiara time to reflect on his words. She understood the depth of empathy behind them. If someone in your life can harm you, you must distance yourself, but only after you have made sure there is nothing more you can do to help. He added, now that we've cleared that up, Hogai continued, let's begin by discussing the first sign you need to watch out for constant manipulation. He looked at Kiara with a steady gaze. Imagine someone who with devious skill distorts reality to achieve their own goals. It could be a colleague, for example, who uses deception to advance their career. When faced with the possibility of a promotion, they might start manipulating you by telling you that certain superiors are speaking ill of you and suggesting you accept a job offer from another company. You may think they are acting in your best interest, but their true intent is actually to elevate themselves at your expense. The young woman listened intently to the monk's insights, her mind reflecting on the wisdom he shared. She was reminded of a similar experience from the previous year, where she had been unknowingly manipulated by someone close to her. Hogai then spoke of the second sign to watch for a lack of genuine empathy. Consider someone who appears indifferent to your feelings or experiences, showing interest only when it serves their purposes. He explained, this lack of care can deeply affect your personal relationships because you sense their disinterest in your well-being, unless they need something from you. Hogai continued describing the third sign, a habitual instigator of conflict. Imagine a person who, regardless of the peace around them, consistently seeks to stir up trouble, fueling arguments and strife, he said. Such behavior not only strains relationships, but can also poison the atmosphere, making it toxic. He then moved on to the fourth sign, an overwhelming need for control. Think of a friend or partner who tries to dominate your decisions, steering your life to suit their desires, Hogai said. Whenever you share your plans or dreams, they take steps to sway you from your path, guiding you toward their objectives instead. This controlling behavior, he emphasized, can severely hinder your independence and authenticity. Reflecting on these points, Kiara considered her own experiences. Hogai then addressed the fifth sign, a blatant disregard for personal boundaries. Consider someone who consistently violates your privacy, encroaching on your space, or ignoring your need for solitude, he explained. Such actions can leave you feeling vulnerable and insecure as they infringe upon your personal freedom. Finally, Hogai touched on the sixth sign, the frequent use of deception. Envision someone who weaves a complex web of lies obscuring the truth to manipulate outcomes in their favor. He continued, the woman instantly thought of her friend Luca, who often embellished his stories to seem more intriguing. This chronic dishonesty, Hogai concluded, is a mark of those with ill intentions or those who are inherently deceitful, prepared to harm you in some way. The seventh sign, Hogai explained, is the pattern of vindictive behavior. Think of someone who, at the slightest sign of criticism or rejection, actively tries to get even or punish you. Kiara immediately thought of Marta, her work colleague, who, when confronted with a gentle warning, had reacted by spreading false and negative rumors about her trying to tarnish her reputation in front of other employees. This attitude, the monk concluded, can generate a cycle of negativity and destroy the foundations of human relationships. And here we are. Hogai said, at the eighth sign, to watch out for the constant search for attention. He paused, letting the words sink in. Imagine a friend who incessantly seeks approval through excessive behaviors or by dramatizing every situation. Kiara immediately thought of a friend who was always the center of attention, constantly exaggerating her experiences for validation. A friend from the group she went out with every time they were together would dramatize her affairs, drawing everyone's attention to herself. Kiara recognized this behavior, and it immediately resonated with Hogai's teachings. The ninth sign to watch out for, Hogai continued, is a lack of accountability. Think about those who consistently avoid taking responsibility for their actions, always blaming others. Kiara instantly thought of her brother and at least 3 other people she knew. Her brother, since he was a child, would cause trouble and then shift the blame onto his younger sister. Hogai paused, allowing the gravity of his words to settle. He then spoke in a calm voice. Recognizing these 9 signs requires acute perception because we often don't want to see the truth that even people we love, knowingly or unknowingly, are hurting us. But if we want to preserve our inner peace, we must be willing to recognize these signs. He looked directly at Kiara and added, "So Kiara, practice awareness and be vigilant in your relationships." Kiara, deeply moved by Hogai's wisdom, thanked him profusely for his precious teachings, expressing her heartfelt gratitude. However, Hogai felt there was still more to impart. In addition to recognizing these signs, he said, "Always remember to trust your intuition. If something doesn't feel right, take time to reflect. Don't be afraid to end toxic relationships if it helps preserve your serenity and peace." This story underscores the importance of vigilance and discernment in our interactions, Hogai explained. It teaches us to be mindful of the signs that reveal the nature of those around us, to trust our intuition, and to choose companions wisely on our spiritual journeys. Our inner peace, he emphasized, is invaluable, and we should foster relationships that support and enhance this peace. The tale then shifted toward the value of forgiveness, a concept often praised for its role in personal and spiritual healing. Yet it introduced a provocative angle from Buddhist teachings that challenges conventional notions of forgiveness. It prepared Kiara for a narrative that not only enlightened her on traditional Buddhist perspectives, but also encouraged her to rethink her own beliefs and practices on forgiveness, potentially transforming her approach to personal growth and interpersonal relations. In an ancient monastery nestled in the Indian mountains, an elderly monk named Kumen, known for his profound understanding of Buddhism, encountered a man burdened by unseen woes. "Master Kumen," the man said, his voice trembling, "how can I truly learn to forgive in the Buddhist way?" With gentle compassion, Kumen invited the man to sit and shared a story to shed light on true forgiveness. Once there were 2 brothers, sons of a dedicated merchant. The brothers increasingly found themselves at Buddha's side, choosing spiritual teachings over the family business. Kumen began. This shift concerned their father deeply. Their father, Kumen, continued watched with growing concern as his sons drifted away from the commercial path, drawn instead to a man known for his contemplative stillness. This shift led them deeper into a narrative exploring the delicate balance between familial duties and spiritual aspirations, all framed through the lens of forgiveness. The merchant Kumen said believed his sons were neglecting their responsibilities and the prosperity of their family. His concern soon turned to anger as he reflected on how the Buddha was influencing his children's lives. One day, determined to put an end to this situation, the merchant decided to confront the Buddha directly. He traveled to where the Buddha was teaching, and when he saw him sitting serenely, his eyes half closed with a peaceful smile, his anger flared. This man, Kumen explained, felt betrayed. He believed the Buddha was stealing his children's future. Filled with frustration and despair, the merchant planned how he would humiliate the Buddha in front of all his disciples. He wanted to spit on him and bring him down for the harm he believed the Buddha was causing his family. But when he stood before the Buddha and saw his peaceful face, something shifted within him. The calmness surrounding the Buddha was so profound that the merchant momentarily forgot his vengeful intentions. However, his pride struggled to accept this atmosphere of peace. Strengthened by his determination, the merchant spat in the Buddha's face. The Buddha's disciples rose to defend him, but the Buddha remained unperturbed, maintaining his calm demeanor with a gentle smile. Kumen described the moment as if a wave of tranquility had enveloped the place. The Buddha, he said, did not react with anger. Instead, he accepted the apparent offense with an open heart, his presence radiating peace. The merchant witnessing this response realized the futility of his actions. His anger, which had once burned so intensely, transformed into remorse. All the accusations and insults he had prepared seemed meaningless in the presence of such peace. The Buddha did not condemn the man, nor did he humiliate him. Instead, he offered him compassion and peace. At this point in the story, the monk paused to emphasize a crucial lesson. Dear friend, Kumen said, forgiveness is like the Buddha's presence. It is not something we do in a concrete sense. It is not simply saying, I forgive you. True forgiveness happens when we are willing to let go of the past and see the person before us in a new light. Kumen resumed the story, explaining how the merchant, touched by the Buddha's compassion, returned home. The images of the peaceful Buddha and the act of spitting in his face clashed in his mind. That night, the merchant couldn't sleep. His mind was overwhelmed by the image of the Buddha's serene smile. At the same time, the man was haunted by the act of spitting he had committed against the Buddha. He stood at a crossroads, torn between remorse for his past actions and the possibility of a different future. Kumen emphasized the significance of this pivotal moment in the story. The man, he said, was undergoing a deep process of introspection, grappling with guilt and shame for how he had behaved. Imagination, Kumen remarked, can be a powerful ally or a fierce enemy. In the wrong hands, it can create an endless cycle of anger and resentment. The man over time began to realize that the Buddha had not reacted to his actions with judgment, but with a clear, unwavering objective. Gradually, the man let go of thoughts of revenge and began to sincerely seek forgiveness. One day, he returned to the feet of the Buddha, no longer driven by anger, but filled with genuine repentance. Forgive me, O great master, he pleaded. My ignorance has left me blind. I was focused only on my life and the prosperity of my family. The Buddha, with his eyes half open and a peaceful smile, listened attentively to the man's words. But when the man asked for forgiveness, the Buddha gently shook his head. I can't forgive you, the Buddha said kindly, because there is nothing to forgive. You have done nothing wrong to me. The man, surprised, asked, Why do you not wish to forgive me? Kumen explained that the Buddha had nothing to forgive because he had accepted the man's act without judgment. It was as if the Buddha saw beyond the past and the present feeling, the pure essence of the individual. This refusal to forgive, Kumen explained, taught the man a valuable lesson. Forgiveness is not just an act of mercy toward others, but also an internal process of liberation. The Buddha Kumen continued taught that to forgive is to perform an act of compassion both toward others and toward ourselves. The man, deeply moved by the Buddha's wisdom, began to reflect on the true meaning of forgiveness. He understood that forgiveness was not something that could be given or received in a simple exchange, but rather an internal experience of liberation. This realization profoundly impacted him, and he decided to embark on a path of self-forgiveness. As time went by, the man learned to let go of the guilt and shame that had tormented him. The practice of meditation became his refuge, where he learned to observe each moment without allowing himself to be dominated by memories of the past or worries about the future. "Dear friend," Kumen said, turning to the man who had been listening intently, "forgiveness is not just a gesture we make toward others. It is an act of kindness that extends toward ourselves as well as the tale of unbalanced kindness. When we learn to see each moment with fresh eyes, overcoming painful memories, and letting go of our destructive imagination, we can find inner peace," Kumen explained. The story continued with the merchant who, inspired by his spiritual practice, eventually healed the wounds of his past and approached the Buddha to thank him. The Buddha, with his compassionate smile, received him with joy. Kumen concluded the story by emphasizing that forgiveness, both toward others and ourselves, is a complex and profound process. On our spiritual journey, he said, forgiveness guides us to a higher level of consciousness and compassion. It is a gift we offer to ourselves and to others, freeing ourselves from the chains of the past and opening the doors to a bright future. But what is the moral of this story, and what does it teach us? The lesson is clear. In the Buddhist view, forgiveness is not an end in itself. It is not something that can simply be given or received, but rather a gift of compassion extended to both ourselves and others. In this approach, forgiveness becomes a means of making those who have wronged us understand the extent of their actions. The compassion and kindness with which we offer forgiveness indirectly become tools to open the eyes of those who have made mistakes, leading them to deeper awareness. Kumen explained, "Whoever commits an evil act toward another actually harms themselves, because karma will cause the effects to return to them like a boomerang. In the end, they too will need to forgive themselves. Remember," Kumen continued, "forgiveness is not just a personal liberation, but a process that can lead to the transformation of others. It opens the door to awareness and growth, creating a bridge to a future of understanding and serenity." Sometimes, Kumen said, we are so kind that we forget ourselves, allowing others to use us. We believe that we must always be kind, he said, and we end up becoming invisible in the process. Kiara reflected deeply on his words. "Have you ever wondered why you tend to be too kind?" Kumen asked. "Or why there are people who are always ready to help you, even when you haven't asked them for help?" In this Zen narrative, we explore the complexities of kindness, its potential pitfalls, and how to balance it effectively to maintain peace in our lives. The story offers vital insights into navigating relationships and achieving personal serenity. In a secluded Japanese monastery, an old monk named Ero, renowned for his profound wisdom, encountered a young woman named Kiara, burdened by her disillusionments. "Master," she confessed, "I've been deeply kind, yet this has only led to pain from those I believed were my friends. What am I doing wrong? With a gentle smile, Ero began to recount a legendary tale known as the story of unbalanced kindness. Among the monks for centuries, there was a story that was shared, a story that Ero now began to recount to Kiara. It told of a village surrounded by a lush, verdant forest, where kindness and mutual support were the pillars of the community. Central to the village's prosperity stood a magnificent cherry tree, rooted deep in the earth, symbolizing the strength and generosity of the villagers. Picture it. Ero instructed Kiara, a grand tree whose roots delved deep into the soil, embodying the communal spirit of the village. The village thrived as its people embraced the wisdom of sharing their bounty, each person contributing to the common good. But Ero continued over time, and imbalance crept in. Some villagers began to harvest more than their fair share from the cherry tree, neglecting to care for it or share the fruits with others. Gradually, this selfishness eroded the village's generosity, leading to a decline in communal spirit and prosperity. This tale, Ero said, serves as a metaphor for the risks of unchecked kindness. When generosity is exploited, the very fabric of community and well-being can begin to unravel. Kiara reflected on this, recognizing the parallels to her own experiences with her so-called friends. She listened intently, her eyes reflecting the desire to understand the deeper nuances of life. With her serene gaze, Ero continued to unfold the history of the village, bringing to light teachings that had been passed down through the centuries. The moral of this story, the monk said, is that generosity must be balanced. We must give with an open heart, but with wisdom and discernment. If we give without awareness, we risk exhausting our resources and weakening our ability to help others in the long run. Kiara felt a shift in her understanding as she listened to the master's words. A new awareness about the nature of kindness began to take root in her. We might think that kindness is always good, Ero continued, since it helps maintain our well-being. However, kindness becomes toxic when it crosses boundaries, leading us to act kindly in every circumstance. This is a form of docility where we forget ourselves in an effort to meet the needs of others. Ero's story became richer with examples. He spoke of parents who gave everything of themselves for the well-being of their children, putting their own needs aside. But Ero said gently, even they can lose themselves in the process. The monk explained how some villagers, in their desire to accumulate more from the cherry tree, had neglected their duty to care for the very tree that had given them so much. The connection between giving and taking, he said, is a delicate balance, a harmonious flow that requires attention and respect. Kiara, absorbed in the story, began reflecting on her own life and the relationships she had experienced over the years. The monk, sensing her desire to understand more, continued to share his wisdom. He spoke about how expecting too much from others could lead to disappointment, and how setting boundaries was essential to maintaining one's emotional well-being. As Kiara listened, she realized that true kindness was not about giving without limits, but about offering help and support in ways that nurtured both others and herself. The wisdom she gained from the story began to transform her perspective on kindness, teaching her that balance and boundaries were key to a harmonious life. Being kind is not the same as focusing only on others, Ero said gently. I'm not saying that helping others is wrong. However, there are times when we want to please others because they ask for our help or because we mistakenly believe they need us. In these cases, we offer our help to make them feel good, but we forget about our own needs in the process. As time passed, Ero and Kiara delved deeper into the nuances of generosity and wisdom. The monk spoke of how generosity, when it came from a balanced heart, could transform relationships and bring joy to both the giver and the receiver. Kiara felt that the monk's wisdom was helping her understand many things she hadn't seen before. She learned that generosity should flow like a harmonious current fueled by deep awareness and sincere love, and should never feel forced. Ero concluded his narration with loving advice. Kiara, try to be like the cherry tree in the village. Offer your generosity, but keep your balance. Find joy in the act of giving itself without expecting too much in return. Remember, extreme kindness can be harmful. Sometimes we don't leave room for others to achieve what they want because we anticipate their needs. Furthermore, when we focus too much on what others need, we forget what we need for ourselves. In doing so, we cancel ourselves out and become invisible due to our own actions. Ero's words sank deeply into Kiara's heart. By always being attentive to the needs of others, he continued, our own needs take a back seat. We trample on ourselves, take away our value, and others take advantage of it. Kiara thanked the monk with a heart full of gratitude. She felt that this story and the advice that came with it would mark a new chapter in her life. So what does this story teach us, and what is its moral? The lesson is clear. Generosity is a powerful gift, but it must be cultivated with care and awareness if it is to bring benefits for both us and those we help. Balance in giving and receiving is the key to a fulfilling and meaningful life. If we are too kind, willing to do whatever is asked of us, just to be seen as good people, we lose our ability to say no and end up being exploited in the long run. This can have significant repercussions on our personal motivation, self-esteem, and mental balance. So what should we do? Stop being kind. No. There are many ways to be kind in a healthier way. You can set boundaries in making others understand how far they can go. Learn to say goodbye to guilt and practice saying no when you can't or don't want to go further. Draw up a list of priorities to help others without putting yourself aside. Remember, be kind, but not overly so. Extreme kindness can harm you, and even those you wish to help. Kiara reflected on the lesson, but also wondered, how many times have I felt that someone entered my life just to destroy my dreams and goals? Often we find ourselves dealing with individuals who seem intent on harming us for reasons like personal grudges, frustration, or envy. In this Zen story, you will discover how to recognize the signs that someone may wish to destroy you. Moreover, if you stay until the end, you will also learn how to protect yourself from these harmful intentions. In a quiet Buddhist monastery, nestled among the Japanese mountains, there lived the elderly monk Aizen, known for his wisdom and profound understanding of the human soul. One winter day, as the smell of boiling tea wafted through the air, his disciples gathered in the temple to listen to Aizen address a crucial topic. Today, we will discuss an important subject, the monk said in a calm yet penetrating voice. We will talk about the 8 signs that can clearly reveal who among those who enter our lives may wish to destroy us. One of the disciples, Kai, eager to learn more, asked, Master Aizen, what are these signs? How can we protect ourselves from those who intend to harm us? Aizen nodded and began by telling an ancient anecdote. Once upon a time, here in the monastery village, there was a sage who owned a precious gem. One day, a cunning man approached him praising his wisdom and asking to admire the gem. While the wise man showed the gem, the scoundrel distracted him with cunning speech and exchanged the gem for a shard of glass. The wise man realized too late that he had been deceived and lost the gem, which would have ensured him a peaceful old age. Manipulation. Eisen continued, is like a silent shadow. Those who seek to destroy us will use cunning and tricks of all kinds to distort reality and deceive us. We must learn to recognize the subtle games of manipulation. Only in this way can we protect ourselves and our inner truth. As the disciples reflected on past manipulations, Eisen shared another story to highlight the second sign, destructive criticism. Picture a flower garden. Eisen said, where instead of care and love, the plants are repeatedly trampled upon. At first it may seem minor, but over time, the garden withers and dies. Destructive criticism. Eisen emphasized is like those heavy steps crushing our self-esteem. Some people will use harsh words and constant judgment to break our spirit. It's vital to recognize the difference between constructive criticism, which helps us grow, and destructive criticism, which is aimed solely at eroding our confidence. Eisen then introduced the third sign with a smile. Social isolation, he said. Let me tell you about a fisherman from a small village known for his amiable nature and helpfulness. An envious person began spreading false tales about him, and soon the fisherman found himself alone, abandoned by his friends and shunned by the village. Eisen paused, letting the story sink in. This is how destructive individuals work. They isolate their targets, making them feel abandoned and alone. We must be mindful of those who seek to cut us off from our support network, for their aim is to weaken us. His business suffered drastically after the isolation Eisen explained. Isolation is like severing a tree's roots, he said. Those who wish to harm us will try to cut us off from others, fostering division and suspicion. To counter this, we must build strong relationships, maintain an impeccable image, and resist efforts to isolate us. Eisen then moved on to the fourth sign, defamation. He invited a guest to share a relevant experience. Not far from here, the guest began. There was a merchant respected by all. A spiteful competitor started spreading lies about his integrity, slowly tarnishing his reputation. Despite the merchant's honest nature, the community turned against him, ceasing to patronize his shop, which ultimately forced him to close and relocate. Through these narratives, Eisen taught the importance of recognizing and responding to harmful signs in relationships, equipping his disciples with the wisdom to protect themselves and maintain their integrity in the face of adversity. Defamation is a poison that corrodes our integrity, Eisen commented. Remember that those who wish to destroy us will use their tongue as a sword, wounding our reputation with lies. We must defend our reputation with truth and transparency, ensuring that whatever they say to defame us does not resonate with people. The disciples, some in tears, recalled the events in which their reputations had been damaged. They reflected on how they could prevent such harm from happening again, now equipped with the wisdom shared by the Master. The fifth signal Eisen spoke of was the sabotage of opportunities. Imagine a craftsman. Eisen began, who every time he was about to achieve success found that someone sabotaged his work. Tools disappeared, plans were ruined, materials were damaged. Despite his abilities, this man could not progress. Sabotage, Eisen stated, is like a wind that extinguishes the flames of our success. Those who wish to destroy us will seek to damage our opportunities by creating obstacles and impediments. To prevent this, we must remain vigilant and protect our path to success. We can do this by surrounding ourselves with trustworthy people and by keeping our ideas safe, ensuring they are not shared before they are realized. As the day continued and the warm tea relaxed the disciples, they listened attentively as Aizen addressed the sixth signal, the violation of privacy. He told a legend of an ancient city. There was a keeper of ancient secrets, Aizen began. Someone envious of his vast knowledge tried to spy on his manuscripts with the goal of stealing the most hidden secrets, but the custodian, thanks to a trusted collaborator, remained vigilant and protected his treasure. Remember, Aizen stressed that your privacy is sacred. Those who wish to destroy us will try to violate our personal space, seeking to steal our most valuable knowledge and secrets. Protect what is yours, and never let others intrude into the sanctity of your private world. Kwai, they will try to invade our most intimate space, seeking information that could be used against us. We must protect our private sphere, firmly, carefully selecting the people to whom we open the doors of our lives so we can shield ourselves from harm. As the fog descended, making the atmosphere in the monastery even more enchanting, the master introduced the seventh sign, espionage. In a distant land, Aizen began, there was a virtuous warrior. A rival, fearing his strength, sent spies to study his movements. But the warrior, with keen intuition, discovered the intrigues and repelled them. Espionage, Aizen warned, is like a shadow trying to steal our mental clarity. Those who wish to destroy us will use devious means to observe our every move. We must be aware of external influences and protect our autonomy. The eighth signal Aizen shared was related to physical aggression and threats. In a remote valley, he recounted, there was a devout monk who was trying to guide young people dedicated to crime onto the right path. A devious individual whose shady interests were threatened by the virtuous actions of the monk tried to destroy him, physically having him beaten so that fear would induce him to desist. Physical aggression, Aizen warned, is the extreme frontier of darkness. Those who wish to destroy us may resort to threats and violence. When someone threatens us, we must protect ourselves by seeking help when necessary. At the end of the day, after sharing these stories, Aizen looked at his disciples with compassionate eyes. My children, he said, life is an intricate dance, and others can either be our guides or our shadows. Watch and be aware of these signs, but do not live in constant fear. Cultivate a garden of trust and mutual respect around you. Surround yourself with trusted people, and don't allow the shadows to destroy the light you have inside. Aizen's words lingered in the air as the disciples reflected on the wisdom shared. The master then shifted the topic to the nature of friendship. Are you among those who have a large number of friends, or do you have few but good ones? He asked. As they say, friendship is a serious thing, but today this term is used too easily. It is enough to have acquaintances to define them as friends. In this Zen story, Aizen would guide his disciples to understand the deeper meaning of friendship, teaching them to discern who truly deserves to be called a friend. The story turned to a girl named Elena, a kind and pure-hearted person who often felt sad and lonely. She looked around and saw the other inhabitants of her town laughing and sharing happy moments with their groups of friends. This vision caused her a deep sense of emptiness and lack. She wondered what was wrong with her, why she was so alone in a world full of connections. Stay with us until the end of this video to discover how Elena's story unfolds and what it teaches us about the true nature of friendship. The moral of this story will help you understand how to read the term friendship more clearly and realize whether having many friends or none at all truly matters. Since she had no one with whom to share her life one day while traveling through Japan, Elena decided to seek solace and advice from the monk Kobo, a wise hermit who lived in a small monastery on the outskirts of a town. Kobo was known for his wisdom and compassion, but above all, for his solitary life. Elena understood that he would be the right person to ask for guidance on her loneliness. Monk Kobo. Elena said quietly, "I feel lonely, and it seems that the lack of friends is a problem. Everyone around me seems happy with their friends, and I wonder why I can't have the same joy." Kobo looked at her with compassionate eyes and invited her to sit down. "Elena," he said, "friendship is indeed a precious gift, but your happiness shouldn't come from how many friends you have. I would like to share with you why not having many friends, or even having none at all, is not something to worry about. In fact, it can even be an advantage." Elena, still immersed in her melancholic mood, asked Kobo to explain further about the concept of having few or no friends. With his wisdom, born from decades of study and reflection, Kobo began to reveal the secrets of authentic friendship. "Dear Elena," he began, "the first thing I want to tell you is that relationships and human bonds are very important, but we should not measure them in terms of quantity. Instead, we must focus on quality. Would you rather have a large number of people with whom you share trivial things, or a small number of people with whom you share deep emotions and meaningful moments?" The girl, faced with these rhetorical questions, began to reflect. She realized that many of the people she saw around her had numerous friends, but what was the quality of those relationships? She asked herself intimately, what do those friendships really mean? Kobo, happy to see that Elena was starting to see things differently, continued to explain why having few friends or none at all should not be seen as a problem. Having few friends, he said, guarantees a certain degree of freedom and authenticity. With fewer people in your life, it's easier to be yourself and live without restriction or external influences. Imagine that you love a particular activity, one that may seem strange or uninteresting to others. If you have few or no friends, you have the freedom to pursue that passion without judgment. Remember, Kobo continued, if you want to live a fulfilling life, you don't have to conform to what others think is cool or normal. After all, who decides what normal really is? Elena thought about one of the things she loved most, observing the starry sky on clear nights. This passion of hers was not understood by her classmates, who made fun of her and saw her as strange. She had often felt isolated because of this interest, but now she began to see that her love for the stars was a unique part of who she was. Kobo went on. The fewer people you have around you, the fewer external voices try to shape your decisions. You can live freely, pursuing the things that bring you joy, without worrying about what others think. Kobo smiled gently and continued. Quantity is never synonymous with quality. Having fewer friends, he said, allows you to focus on building deeper, more meaningful relationships. Imagine having just one friend with whom you share the joys and sorrows of life. This connection could be so deep that the person understands all your emotional nuances. This, Elena, is a priceless treasure. Elena reflected on this idea, remembering an episode in which a girl she knew had supported her in a difficult moment, understanding her without needing many words. It dawned on her that in life, instead of seeking dozens of friends who aren't truly friends, it was far better to focus on finding that one person who sees life in the same way as she did. After giving Elena time to reflect, Kobo continued with his explanations. Human relationships, he said, require a lot of emotional energy. Having few friends allows you to focus this energy on the people who truly matter. To enhance this idea, Kobo used a practical example. Think about how many conflicts or tensions usually arise in large groups of friends. Maintaining small relationships, however, allows you to preserve your positive energy for those who truly support you. If you have to argue with someone to resolve a conflict, it is far better that this person really matters to you. Elena thought about how group dynamics often cause stress, while more intimate interactions brought her joy and comfort. She now saw the value in focusing on meaningful, deeper relationships rather than trying to fit into large, superficial social circles. Kobo went on to highlight another benefit of solitude. Loneliness, he said, can be an opportunity to explore oneself and grow personally. In the tranquility of solitude, you can discover hidden passions, latent interests, or unexplored talents. You are not limited by the expectations of others, and this allows you to grow in surprising ways. So, dear Elena, Kobo said kindly, my invitation is to view loneliness in a different light than you have until now. Having few but good friends allows us to more easily find moments to be alone with ourselves, and this can significantly help our spiritual and personal growth. Elena thought about how much time she could dedicate to her personal interests when she wasn't trying at all costs to be with groups of people. She realized that by dedicating herself to solitude, she distanced herself from the unhealthy pursuit of others' approval that had always left her feeling empty. In those moments of solitude, she discovered aspects of herself she hadn't even known existed, and it was beautiful. Finally, Kobo emphasized, the absence of social limitations also allows for greater flexibility in our lives. Imagine receiving a job opportunity in a faraway place with no strings attached. You are free to embrace new adventures without having to think about how they will affect your social life or relationships. Elena smiled at this thought. She now saw that the freedom of solitude and the peace found in authentic connections offered a richness far greater than a crowded social life. Elena contemplated the experiences of those with fewer close ties who embraced the freedom to seize opportunities without constraints. She encountered individuals who, driven by such independence, had ventured far and wide to fulfill their dreams. Their stories spoke of how the absence of a large social circle had allowed them to embrace adventure and follow their passions without being tethered by expectations or obligations. Kobo, sensing Elena's thoughts, summed up the lesson. Even if you move across the world with just a few true friends, you won't lose them. They stay with you, transcending distance and time. After listening intently, Elena gained a new perspective on friendship. She realized that having few friends didn't equate to loneliness. Instead, it meant she could focus more on her inner self and foster meaningful connections that truly resonated with her. It was not about quantity, but about the depth and authenticity of the relationships she nurtured. Master Kobo embraced her, gently reinforcing his words. Remember, he said, your happiness shouldn't hinge on how many friends you have, but on the quality of the relationships you nurture with the few you choose. I've met people who felt friendless only to realize they had one person in their life worth 100 others. And keep in mind, those with few friends often possess a depth and authenticity rarely seen. They don't settle for mediocrity. Usually, those who don't mesh well with everyone and prefer fewer companions, harbor an exceptional inner world and extraordinary human qualities. The moral of this story, Kobo continued, was clear. Loneliness, when reinterpreted, can be a powerful ally in your quest for happiness, spiritual growth, and personal fulfillment. It shouldn't be feared. To live contentedly, you don't need many friends, just the right ones who genuinely enrich your life, especially if you naturally incline towards solitude, reflecting a deeper sensitivity than most. Elena smiled as she absorbed the wisdom shared by the monk. She now understood that solitude was not something to shy away from, but a space for personal growth and meaningful connection with those who truly mattered.